At a small farmer's market, a black veteran of the army was told to go back to the jungle. Instead of shouting back, he calmly reached into his bag and pulled out something that left everyone, even the person who insulted him, silent. Ever witnessed a moment that splits a place apart? Not with fists or panic, but with a few words. It was a Saturday morning in Knoxville, Tennessee, early June. Not yet scorching, but the sun was already staking its claim on the pavement. The Wtover Community Market moved to its usual beat, kids with sticky fingers darting around, elders relaxing with sweet tea in folding chairs, and gospel tunes drifting softly from a booth selling handmade candles. Eldon Trufant, 68, wandered through like he had no schedule to chase. His navy windbreaker caught the sunlight. On the left side, 3 stitched patches. One read Army Medic, another said Operation Desert Storm, and under that, See Gumby, an inside joke among soldiers for staying adaptable. He didn't wear it to show off. He wore it because it was who he was. Eldon wasn't flashy. He mostly kept to himself, always respectful, always steady. He liked helping out, not in a big showy way, but in ways that counted. That day, it was a young mom struggling to get her stroller over a curb. She couldn't have been older than 25, juggling a diaper bag and a restless toddler. "Here, let me help you with that," Eldon offered. She looked startled but thankful. "Thanks so much, sir." He grabbed the handle, lifted the stroller carefully over the concrete edge, and gave her a soft, "Take care now." That's when his shoulder brushed the woman behind him in the biscuit cart line. Her name was Mara Peenham, and she turned like she'd been shoved. "Excuse me," she barked, stepping back like Eldon had pushed her. She was in her early 50s with sharp features and a haircut that cost more than an old spare tire. Her lips curled. Eldon lifted his hands a little. "Didn't mean to crowd you, ma'am." Mara wasn't done. She eyed him up and down, her stare landing on his jacket, then his face. "People like you should just go back to the jungle," she hissed, loud enough to slice through the market's chatter. The baby in the stroller went quiet. A man by the lemonade stand froze mid-sip. Someone mumbled, "Did she really say that?" Eldon didn't flinch. He didn't budge. He just watched her like he was trying to understand what kind of bitterness made her spit out words like that at a stranger. "I did 20 years in uniform," he said calmly. Didn't matter what color the guy next to me was, just whether he could run and lift a stretcher. "I patched up boys from Alabama and Brooklyn, black, white, and every shade in between. Some made it back, some didn't, but we didn't care about bloodlines. We just stopped the bleeding." Mara scoffed. "Yeah, and now you're pretending to be a hero at a farmer's market." Someone near the honey booth muttered, "What's her problem?" The young mom was still there, staring wide. Tension hung in the air. A few people pulled out their phones, not to record Eldon, but to catch her words. Eldon didn't raise his voice. He didn't argue back. He drew a slow breath, reached into the old canvas satchel slung over his shoulder, faded green, the kind they don't make anymore. He took out a small plastic sleeve. Inside it was a letter, folded in thirds, sealed in laminate. He held it up, not like a prize, but like something precious. "I carry this to remind myself why I kept going, even when I wanted to give up," he said. It was from a young soldier he hauled out of a burning Humvee in Fallujah. The kid was 21, from Idaho. His name was Brendan Keller. Still sends a card every Veterans Day. Now he works as a paramedic up the road in Ville. The square went still. No one spoke. For the first time, Mara didn't have a quick reply. Eldon looked at her, not with anger, but with something softer, sadder. "You don't have to respect me, but you don't get to erase me." Even then, nobody knew exactly what would come next. At first, no one said a word, no yelling, no defense for Mara, no noise at all. Just a thick silence stretched across the Wtover market like iron. You could hear the snap of tent flaps. The creak of a rocking chair left behind. Even the baby in the stroller stayed silent. Eldon stood in the middle of it, the laminated letter in his grip. His hands were steady. His face was calm, but you could see it, he didn't want the spotlight. He hadn't asked for it. Mara glanced around. She expected someone to agree with her, nod along, maybe chuckle, but all she found were eyes fixed on her, waiting. Watching. A teen boy near the corn stand muttered, "That's messed up." His mother shot him a look but didn't argue. Mara stiffened, mouth opening, closing. She tugged her purse strap, and for a second, it seemed like she'd push back. "I didn't mean it that way," she said loud enough for all to hear. Eldon stayed still. The young mom with the stroller, her name was Jasmine Ellery, stepped forward a bit. "What did you mean then?" The crowd shifted closer. Jasmine didn't sound mad. Her tone wasn't sharp, but there was iron in it, Mara knew it. "I just don't like being shoved," Mara snapped back. "That's all." "You were barely brushed," someone else said, an older man in cargo shorts and a Veterans for Peace hat. "You just wanted to say something nasty. And you did." Mara's face burned red. She turned to Eldon. "I won't be made out as some villain," she said, but her voice had lost its edge. "You don't have to be made out to be one," Eldon replied. "You opened your mouth. You did that yourself." Silence again. Then someone began to clap. Just one person, a woman holding a crate of strawberries. The sound bounced through the hush. A second joined in, then a third, and before long, the market wasn't silent anymore. The clapping wasn't wild. It wasn't for show. It was slow, honest, steady. Some clapped out of respect for Eldon. Some clapped. Left it, like he just needed to finish his morning errands. But even though the moment had passed, the weight of it hadn't. People kept looking over. Whispers started. Some pulled out their phones to post about it, not to brag, but because they couldn't quite believe what they'd witnessed. A man had been told to go back to the jungle, and he'd responded not with anger, but with truth, and somehow that hurt more. But Eldon's story was just getting started. Because what happened at the market didn't stay at the market. By the time Eldon got home that afternoon, his wife Lorraine was already setting out lunch. Grilled chicken, cornbread, and sliced cucumbers from the garden. Their little house on Whittier Avenue, not far from the river, was shaded by 2 stubborn old sycamores that had survived 3 windstorms and a small kitchen fire. "You were out longer than usual," Lorraine said, glancing up from the pitch of iced tea. Eldon placed the paper bag of tomatoes on the counter. "Ran into a situation at the market." She raised an eyebrow, but didn't push. "Not yet." He washed his hands, sat down, and started eating like it was any other Saturday. But Lorraine knew him too well. After 43 years of marriage, you notice the pauses, the slight tilt in the shoulders, the way someone chews when they're still thinking about something they didn't say. "You want to talk about it?" she asked gently. So he did. Not every detail, not at first, just enough for her to understand what happened. Enough to see the quiet insult, the heavy silence, and the letter, the one from Brendan Keller, that had somehow spoken louder than his voice ever could. Lorraine listened without interruption. She didn't gasp, didn't curse. When he finished, she sat back and crossed her arms. "She really said that in front of all those people," Eldon nodded. "Clear as day. And you pulled out the letter?" "Felt like the right time." Lorraine looked at him for a long moment. "It always rattles me when you talk about that day." Eldon rubbed the Side of his neck. I think about it more than I let on. He didn't have to explain. She remembered the phone call. The days after the photo of him lying in a hospital bed in Germany with burns up his left arm. And then 6 months later. The envelope with shaky handwriting that had shown up just before Thanksgiving. Brendan Keller's words were short, but they hit hard. You gave me another chance at life, Sergeant Trufant. I hope I do something good with it. That one sentence was why Eldon had kept the letter laminated, carried it with him ever since. Not for pride, but to remind himself that sometimes, in the middle of chaos, something right can still happen. But now that letter was in other people's phones. Someone had recorded the whole scene at the market. Eldon didn't know it until Sunday morning when Lorraine opened her iPad and gasped. Eldon. There he was, still and steady on someone's TikTok feed. Over 300,000 views in less than 12 hours. The video. Still watered the Elas before dusk, still made his coffee the same way, strong enough to peel paint. What changed was the town. People were talking in places they hadn't before, grocery aisles, barbershops, church lobbies, not yelling, just asking things. Did she really mean it? Why did it take a camera for folks to care? Has anything like that ever happened to you? Even neighbors who'd never spoken to Eldon found themselves revisiting moments they'd brushed aside, things they'd laughed off or kept quiet about. And then the letters started coming, dozens of them, from strangers, some typed, some handwritten on loose leaf or thank you cards with flowers on the front. One envelope didn't have a return address, just a line, from a white man who should have known better long ago. Lorraine read most of them aloud at night while Eldon sat beside her. One woman in Kentucky wrote, "My granddad served too. Nobody thanked him either." Another from a teen in Memphis said, "You reminded me quiet isn't weak. I needed that." Still, not all the attention felt good. A reporter in Nashville called, wanting to feature him in a morning show. He said no. 2 churches asked him to speak at Sunday services. He turned those down too, not because he was angry, but because he didn't want to turn what happened at the market into a speaking tour. He didn't see himself as a hero. He'd just answered hate with a memory. That's it. I don't need a microphone, he told Lorraine. They heard me fine without one. But the pressure didn't ease up. Sunday morning, Eldon walked into Franklin Street Diner, same breakfast spot he'd gone to for years. Same waitress, Cheryl Grant, generous with coffee, poured his cup like always. But this time, the whole diner went quiet when he stepped in. Not cold, just watchful. "You holding up okay?" she asked as she set down his eggs. He shrugged. "It'll blow over." "You sure?" she said. "Feels like it's just starting." And she was right. Later that week, Knoxville Community College got in touch through one of Lorraine's friends. They wanted Eldon to sit on a panel about dignity, service, and how people talk to each other. "I'm no speaker," he said. "You're a man who's lived through something," Lorraine told him. "That's more than enough." He was still thinking it over when Brendan Keller texted again. "If you do it, tell me. I'll drive down to hear you." That message stuck with him. Brendan had rebuilt his life, became a paramedic, started a family, all because of a single moment in Fallujah and maybe a laminated letter that weighed more than a lifetime of small talk. But while Eldon tried to come to terms with the attention, the town was starting to stir, ready to choose sides. Eldon never liked talking about Fallujah. He'd seen things there that words never quite covered. Heat that bent the air, sounds that stuck to your ribs long after the shooting stopped, faces of young men too terrified to speak and too brave to run. But after that,